Hello and welcome to this second part of the two-part guide to using the new half-cut function in Synapse 7.1 Build 8. In the first part I explained setting up your chosen device for use with this new feature and the best method to use, as this can vary from one machine to the next. In this tutorial I'll explain how to apply half-cut lines to objects in Synapse, which is the same regardless of whatever output device is used. On screen I have a company logo, and in this illustration you can see how the finished decal will look once produced. To get to this point I need to apply two cut paths to the outer edge. The first will be a regular contour cut line, and the second will be a half cut line. The half cut line will cut through both the vinyl and backing paper. I use the iCandy features to create the transformations to my image, so despite the bitmap fill on the background, I have a nice crisp vectored edge to apply the contour path to. You can see this clearer when the design is placed over a dark background. With all objects grouped and selected, I'm now going to go to the Cut menu and select Contour Cut. And the tools for this function will now become visible in the taskbar at the top of the screen. There are quite a few different options here, and if you are unfamiliar with them, you could watch the Contour Cut tutorial which explains this function in full. This is available to watch or download from the CADLink website. For this example, I need the contour line to cut right on the edge of the print, so I will set the offset to a very slight negative value, and this should eliminate any white edges from appearing on the outside of my sticker. I also want to use point as my corner setting to keep the corners nice and sharp. Okay, with my settings made I can now click apply. The contour line has been applied, but it may be a little hard to see on this video, so I'm just going to move my object out of the way so you can see it more clearly. It's represented here by the broken line. Take another look back to the finished decal. The half cut path is the same shape as the contour just added, albeit a few millimeters larger. The simplest way to achieve this is to apply the new half cut path to the contour line I just created. So in Synapse I'm going to select the contour. I can check I've clicked the right path by looking to the selected color icon in the taskbar at the top of the screen. When I have the contour line selected it shows black, and when I have my original object selected it shows invisible, because it's made up of a group of objects that have various colors and bitmap fills. So with it selected I can now return to the Cut menu, but this time select Half Cut. The workflow for this tool is much the same as Contour Cut. This time I will select an offset of 2.5mm and set my corner style to round. This won't affect the finished sticker as it's only the outer path, but it will make the deeper cut that is required here easier to achieve if the corners are rounded rather than sharp. I'm also adding a small peel tab by clicking the box here. You can see this added to my design. This is simply a personal preference, but you may find it helps to release the finished sticker from the backing. I can choose a specific colour for the half cut line by clicking this box here. The choices mirror the current shop palette. Some cutters use colours to identify the type of path being received. If this is the case with your device, then you would need to select that specific colour here. One example of this is the Suma DC4 series. In part 1 of this guide to using half cut, I demonstrated how to assign a colour specifically for this use and save it permanently to my shop palette. If I hover over the colour here, you can see the name I assigned appears, half cut. If I were producing this job on the DC4, I would simply select this colour so that the machine recognises that this line is intended as a half cut path. Cutters or print and cut machines will vary in setup, but for the vast majority of devices receiving data directly from Synapse, the colour of the contour or half cut path is irrelevant. For this example, I will leave it as is. Okay, so that's my settings complete for the half cut path, so I will now click to a blank area of my Synapse screen to exit, and my file is now ready to send to the Print and Cut Manager for production. Shortly I'll finish this example and show you the final steps required to complete the job, but first I'll show you some other options. First, a couple of tips on applying contour and half-cut paths to bitmap objects. Take a look at this logo. Unlike the previous example, it does not have a clipped path, and you can see a white box around it when it's moved over a dark background. When applying a contour line to this object, I would need to select this option, Cut Inside Bitmaps, so that my contour line will do just that and form a tight path around the logo. The accuracy of the resulting path will depend on the quality of your image and the colours of the background behind it. My logo has a pure white background, so it's simple to adjust the monochrome filter to achieve a good contour path. Again, I would advise that if you are unfamiliar with the full functionality of contour cut tools, then our dedicated tutorial on this subject will help. The main reason for showing you these functions here is to emphasize that once you have achieved a contour path you are satisfied with, whether that is to a vectored or bitmap object, it's simple to then just select it and apply a half-cut path of the same shape. You can see this in action again as I select the path and go to the Cut menu and select Half Cut. Okay, so once again I'm going to add a Peel tab and my decal is ready for production. So it's simple to apply half-cut paths that follow the shape of an object, and it's also possible to create custom shapes or just simple squares and rectangles. For example, if I wanted a square decal rather than one that followed the shape of my design, I would simply create a square or rectangle to the desired shape and size. Go to the Cut menu, Contour Half Cut on Off, and this transforms my square into a recognizable half-cut path. And this will work for any vectored path in SignLab, allowing you to create some interesting and varied results. Remember here that if you create your half-cut paths in this way, and they are to be produced on a machine that recognizes them by color, you would need to select the required color from your palette. Okay, so let's now return and output my original example. I will be using the Roland VersaCAM and the variable pressure method. With all objects selected, I go to the File menu and select Print and Cut. I'm going to use decal mode here to create multiple copies, just 6 for this example, and I'll place a 5mm space between each copy. Now ready to send, I will click on the last icon in my toolbox, represented by the printer and scissors, indicating this is a print and cut job. Okay, so the job is now in the Print and Cut Manager, and I can now right click on it and select Print and Cut. Remember, this job is being processed on an all-in-one device, so it's important to select this option as opposed to just print or just cut. And it's that simple. The decals will now be printed before the contour cut line is applied to each one, and then the half cut to each one. It's then an easy task of releasing the decals from the media ready for delivery to the customer. Much quicker than splicing them all individually on the workbench, and 100 times more presentable. The end results here speak for themselves. Quality individual decals contoured to any shape using the powerful new tools in this latest release of SignLab. For more tutorials on CADlink's full range of software, have a look at InfoSource, our dedicated online support and training facility.